The stadium hummed with a kinetic, almost electric reverence, a living organism breathing in unison beneath a canopy of glowing purple lights. For millions across the globe, the BTS concert experience was never merely a musical performance. It was a sanctuary, a sacred space carved out of noise where vulnerability was welcomed and healing was shared. Yet, amidst the thunderous bass and the synchronized ocean of army bombs, an invisible, heavier current ran through the arena, a profound, quiet understanding of time, absence, and the unbreakable bond between 7 men and the people who loved them. Jin, standing center stage as the initial notes of a familiar melody began to drift through the warm night air, thought he had prepared himself. He had spent years standing before stadiums, weathering the dizzying heights of global stardom, shouldering the unspoken pressure of being the eldest, the pillar who had to remain steady when the foundation shook. But nothing in his rigorous training, nothing in the countless hours of rehearsal, could have prepared him for the sudden, visceral impact of what was waiting out there in the 14th row. As the camera cranes swept gracefully over the crowd, capturing the kaleidoscope of handmade signs and illuminated slogans, one particular banner caught the eye of the main stage production monitors. It wasn't the largest sign, nor was it lit with flashing LEDs that screamed for attention. Instead, it was crafted with a simple, painstaking care, written in the unmistakable, universal handwriting of a devoted fan, bearing a message that sliced straight through the celebratory atmosphere and struck at the very core of what it meant to be BTS. The arena seemed to hold its collective breath. Jin's gaze, tracking across the sea of faces, locked onto those simple words, and in an instant, the carefully maintained armor of the global superstar fractured. The microphone in his hand suddenly felt heavier, his breath hitching in his throat as the raw, unfiltered weight of the past few years rushed back to him. It was a moment that defied choreography, a genuine collision of emotion that instantly shifted the gravity of the entire arena. To understand the magnitude of that single second, one has to look back at the sprawling, tumultuous journey that brought BTS to this exact crossroads. The story of BTS is not just a chronicle of chart-topping singles, Grammy nominations, and stadiums sold out in milliseconds. It is a deeply human narrative of 7 individuals, RM, Jin, Suga, J-Hope, Jimin, V, and Jungkook, who started from the absolute margins of the industry, carrying the heavy burden of doubt and defying the odds together. Every member represents a distinct facet of this shared resilience, yet they have always functioned as a single, beating heart. When Jin, as the eldest, faced the inevitable mandatory military service, the fracture felt across the fandom was palpable. It marked the official beginning of a transitional era, a period where the invincible 7 had to temporarily part ways, facing the daunting reality of individual paths while promising a glorious reunion in the future. The months that followed were a masterclass in missing someone, with each member stepping into solo ventures, releasing deeply personal albums, exploring diverse artistic horizons, and carrying the BTS banner forward, one by one, while keeping the eternal promise of 2025 burning bright in their hearts. And now, standing on that stage, the reality of that journey came crashing down. The banner in the crowd was not just a greeting, it was a testament to endurance, a bridge connecting the lonely nights of waiting to the radiant warmth of being together again. Jin stood completely transfixed, his eyes glistening under the stage lights, utterly unable to conceal the emotional storm raging beneath his composed exterior. The thousands of fans watching live, alongside millions more tracking the global livestream, realized right then that they were witnessing television history, a fragile, beautiful crack in the facade of perfection, revealing the pure, beating heart of an artist who loved his people just as fiercely as they loved him. The camera zoomed in tight on his face, capturing the slight tremor of his lower lip and the way he instinctively bit down to fight back the rising tide of tears. In that stillness, the entire stadium seemed to suspend time. Fans held their breath, acutely aware that one small detail in this unfolding moment, a shift in his expression, a stray tear catching the light, a sudden intake of breath, was about to change everything we thought we knew about the endurance of K-pop royalty. The emotional stakes had never been higher, setting the stage for a climax that would reverberate across social media timelines and fan communities for decades to come. As the seconds stretched into an eternity, the arena remained utterly spellbound, caught in the gravitational pull of Jin's vulnerability. This was the defining magic of BTS, their extraordinary ability to turn a massive, high-production stadium tour into an intimate, living room conversation between old friends. The banner that had silenced the eldest vocalist was more than just cardboard and ink. It was a living reflection of the collective soul of ARMY, an entity that had grown, wept, laughed, and healed alongside the members through every high and every low. Across the stage, the other members, though occupied with their own performance cues, instantly sensed the shift in the energy. You could see the subtle, protective glances exchanged between them. This is the unspoken language of BTS, forged in cramped practice rooms and solidified on the biggest stages on Earth. When RM speaks, when Suga nods, when J-Hope bursts into blinding sunshine, when Jimin dances with ethereal grace, when V pours his soulful baritone into the mic, and when Jungkook anchors the performance with his effortless power, they're always acutely aware of one another's emotional states. They are brothers in every sense that matters, having survived the brutal fires of the entertainment industry by leaning entirely on each other. When they saw Jin struggling to keep his composure, the protective instinct kicked in instantly. Without missing a beat in their spatial awareness, the members began to drift closer, surrounding him in a subtle, comforting crescent of solidarity. It wasn't scripted. It was pure instinct. They knew the sleepless nights he had endured, the physical exhaustion of readjusting to the grueling demands of world-class touring, and the profound emotional weight of carrying the group's banner during a time of immense transition. Seeing him stand there, fighting back tears in front of tens of thousands of cheering voices, reminded them, and everyone watching, of the immense vulnerability required to stand in the spotlight and bare one's soul night after night. The narrative of BTS has always been rooted in storytelling, in transforming personal pain into universal comfort through music like Spring Day, Epiphany, and Yet to Come. When Jin finally drew a sharp, shaky breath and flashed that iconic, bittersweet smile, the one that has launched 1,000 fan edits and melted millions of hearts, the stadium erupted not just in cheers, but in a synchronized wave of emotional release. It was a shared catharsis, a collective reminder that no matter how far they traveled, no matter how many stadiums they conquered, they remained ordinary men who felt deeply, loved fiercely, and appreciated every single second of the miracle they had built together. As the concert resumed with a renewed, almost spiritual fervor, the impact of that single frozen moment rippled far beyond the physical boundaries of the stadium. It became a cultural touchstone, a viral phenomenon analyzed by entertainment critics and cherished by fans worldwide as proof of the unbreakable, irreplaceable bond between BTS and ARMY. Long after the final notes faded into the night air and the lights of the stadium slowly dimmed, the image of Jin standing frozen before that banner remained etched in the collective memory of millions. A timeless reminder that true strength is never found in invulnerability, but in the courage to let the world see your heart break just a little bit out of pure, overwhelming gratitude. The final notes of the encore reverberated through the charged air of the stadium, but the energy of the crowd refused to dissipate, clinging to the concrete and steel like a physical embrace. For the tens of thousands still lingering in their seats, and the millions watching the global broadcast through tear-filled eyes, the concert had transcended a standard musical performance. It had become an emotional milestone, a shared chapter in an ongoing epic that seemed to defy the ordinary laws of the music industry. Jin stood near the edge of the extended runway, letting the cool night air wash over his face. The initial shock of the banner had melted into a deep, serene acceptance, a quiet joy that seemed to radiate from within. He raised his microphone once more, not to sing, but to speak directly to the sea of purple lights that stretched out endlessly before him. His voice, steady now yet carrying the lingering warmth of raw emotion, echoed through the massive speakers, reminding everyone why he held the title of worldwide handsome not just in appearance, but in spirit. "I was worried," Jin confessed softly into the mic, his gaze sweeping across the banners, the glowing lights, and the tear-stained faces in the front rows. "Coming back to the stage, stepping into this bright light again after everything. I wondered if you would still be waiting, if the space we shared before would still feel the same." Before he could even finish the sentence, the stadium erupted into a deafening roar of affirmation. It wasn't just applause, it was a tidal wave of reassurance, a collective voice shouting back that no matter how much time passed, no matter what individual roads they traveled, the sanctuary they had built together remained completely unshakable. Across the stage, the other members smiled softly, nodding in quiet agreement. RM stepped forward, adjusting his in-ear monitor, and offered a grounding presence that had anchored the group through a decade of historic highs and tumultuous transitions. "We never left," RM said, his deep voice cutting cleanly through the fading echoes of the crowd. "And neither did you. We just took different paths to meet at the exact same horizon." This seamless unity among the 7 members has always been the secret engine driving BTS forward. In an industry notoriously prone to fleeting trends and bitter dissolutions, BTS operated on a different frequency entirely. Their connection was forged in the grueling underground trainee days, cemented through the sweat and tears of nearly empty performance venues, and polished on the grandest stages the world had ever seen. When individual members pursued solo endeavors, releasing critically acclaimed hip-hop mixtapes, soulful R&B tracks, indie-pop masterpieces, and chart-topping dance anthems, they never competed with one another, they amplified each other. Every solo success was treated as a victory for the collective whole, a building block for the grand reunion that the world was currently witnessing unfold in real time. The camera panned across the faces of the audience, capturing generations of fans standing side by side. Mothers and daughters, lifelong friends who had met through online fan communities, and solo travelers who had flown thousands of miles just to be in this specific room, all united by a singular artistic vision that prioritized empathy, mental health, and self-love. The banner that had initially broken Jin's composure was now being gently lowered, replaced by hundreds of others, each telling its own unique story of survival, comfort, and unwavering loyalty. As the members gathered at the center of the stage for their final traditional bow, they locked arms in a tight, unbreakable circle. It was the exact same posture they had practiced in cramped basement studios a decade ago, but now carried the majestic weight of global legends who had changed the trajectory of modern music history. When they bowed deeply to the floor, 90 degrees in mutual respect and gratitude, the stadium answered with a final, earth-shaking ovation that shook the very foundations of the arena. The lights slowly began to dim, casting long, dramatic shadows across the stage as the final credits rolled on the stadium screens. Yet, as the fans poured out into the cool night air, humming familiar melodies and sharing quiet reflections under the streetlights, one truth was abundantly clear. The story of BTS and ARMY was far from reaching its final act. It was an infinite loop of love, music, and mutual redemption, proving that even when the tears fall and the emotional weight feels insurmountable, the purple light will always guide them back home. Part 4. The legacy woven in purple and the infinite horizon. The exodus from the stadium was a slow, luminous migration, with the glowing remnants of ARMY bombs casting a soft violet hue over the midnight streets. Long after the final echoes of the encore had faded into the silence of the night, the emotional shockwaves of the concert continued to reverberate across digital landscapes and international communities. Social media platforms were instantly flooded with millions of posts dissecting every micro-expression, every tear, and every subtle glance exchanged between the members. Yet, amidst the flurry of trending hashtags and viral video clips, one central theme dominated the global conversation: the profound, unwavering authenticity of BTS. In an era where pop stardom is frequently manufactured, polished, and stripped of genuine human flaws through algorithmic perfection, BTS has consistently shattered the mold by refusing to hide behind a sterile corporate mask. When Jin stood frozen on that stage, fighting back tears while staring at a handmade sign, he wasn't performing a scripted emotional cue. He was living out loud in front of the world, laying bare the vulnerability that has always been the true secret to their unprecedented global dominance. It was a stark reminder that the emotional investment shared between the group and their fandom is entirely mutual, built on years of late-night live streams, brutally honest lyricism, and a shared willingness to acknowledge the darker, heavier moments of life. The ripple effect of that single, breathless second extended far beyond the immediate concert attendees. For the other 6 members, watching Jin navigate that wave of emotion served as a powerful mirror reflecting their own individual and collective journeys. RM, Suga, J-Hope, Jimin, V, and Jungkook had each faced their own private battles during the transitional chapters of their careers, grappling with the immense pressure of living up to global expectations, navigating the quiet solitude of mandatory military service, and rediscovering their artistic identities outside the safety net of the group. Seeing their eldest brother break down on stage wasn't a sign of weakness. It was a triumphant testament to how deeply they cared, proving that no amount of international accolades, stadium tours, or historic milestones could ever desensitize them to the genuine love of their supporters.